Sewmate, welcome back to my channel. It's Needles by Tiara here. And on today's tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to make a corset for a plus size client as displayed on the thumbnail. So without no further ado, let's dive right into it. So here's my pattern paper well laid. So please ensure that your pattern paper is on fold. So however, mine isn't on fold, but once I transfer this to my fashion fabric, I would ensure that that point is on fold. Now at that point, go ahead to roll out a straight line which will serve as your shoulder point line and equally your starting line. Now placing your tape from your starting line, which is your shoulder point line. So like I said initially, ensure that your pattern paper is on fold. Now moving on, placing my tape from my shoulder point line, which is my starting line, I would go ahead to mark my client's shoulder to bust point line, which is this. Now my client's distance between shoulder to under bust point, which is this. My client's shoulder to front waist point, which is this. And lastly, my client's shoulder to full corset blouse length point, which is this. Having done that, I'll go in with my straight ruler and I'll be connecting those points into each other to form my straight line. So having marked out our straight line, now the next thing we'll proceed on to doing is to label our pattern. So this is my shoulder point, my bust point, my under bust point, my front waist point, please emphasis on the front waist point, and lastly my full blouse length point, which is this. So having done that, now the next thing we'd go ahead to do is to find the distance between our client's shoulder to chest point. So this is mine. I've gone ahead to mark it at that point. Now I'll go in with my straight ruler and I'll go ahead to roll that point into each other to form my straight line. Now I'll go ahead to label this point to be my chest point line, which is this. So having imputed all our vertical measurements, now for our horizontal measurement, which is our circumference measurement, divide your shoulder circumference by 2 and chalk it down on your shoulder point. So now whatever value you have imputed at your shoulder point, bring it down to your chest point and go ahead to chalk it down as well. Now going with your straight ruler, connecting from your chest point all the way up to your shoulder point. Having done that, now we're going to be imputing our neckline. So the standard neckline is 3 inches as our width. And for your depth, you're going to be chalking down 3 inches. So this is 3 inches by 3 inches. Now to our shoulder point line on the chest point, come down at that point by 1 inch, which will serve as our shoulder slope. Now going with my curve ruler, connecting from the 3 inches width of our neckline to the 3 inches depth of our neckline this way. Reintroducing my straight ruler, I'll be connecting from that point all the way down there to form my shoulder slope. Now place your tape from your shoulder slope point line all the way down to your chest point this way. Go ahead to fold your tape into 2 to find the midpoint of that line. So go ahead to chalk it down. Now still on the midpoint line, you're going to be coming on that point by 0.5 inch. Now to your chest point, you're going to be dividing your client's bust circumference by 4 and go ahead to impute whatever value you have on your chest point line. Reintroducing my armhole curve, I'm going to be connecting all those points into each other to form my armhole curve. So please pay keen attention to the way my armhole curve is being placed and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. Having done that, now on our bust point line, we're going to be dividing our bust span, which is our nipple to nipple, by 2. So mine is 9 inches divided by 2 would give me 4.5 inches. On my bust point line, I would go ahead to chalk it. Now I'm going to be taking that same value all the way down to my full corset blouse length. So impute it on your under bust, your waist point, and lastly your full corset blouse length. Now going with your straight ruler, connect from your bust point all the way down there. So now I'll go ahead to label my pattern. This point is my center front, which is the folded part, and this other point is my side front. So please take note, your center front and your side front. So now for your under bust point, tightening you're going to be coming in at that point by 1.25 for your center front and 1.25 for your side front. Now you're going to be taking that value all the way down to your full corset blouse length, which is this on both sides. Having done that, we're going to reintroduce our straight ruler, connecting from our under bust point all the way up to our full blouse length point. And now for this other part, we'll go ahead to replicate same as well. Now go ahead to place your tape on your bust point line this way and come down at that point by 1 inch. So now with the introduction of our curve ruler, we're going to be connecting from the 1 inch that we came down with on our bust point all the way down to our under bust point, that's tightening. So this is basically this for our center front. And now for our side front, we'd go ahead to replicate that same process. So please pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed at every given point and do go ahead to replicate same. So with this, we've successfully imputed our under bust tightening. Now for our over bust tightening, we're going to be placing our tape from that point all the way down there. So from your shoulder slope all the way down there, go ahead to fold it into two, chalk down the midpoint. And now with the introduction of our straight ruler, we're going to be connecting from that midpoint on our shoulder point down to our bust point. So please go ahead to replicate same for yours. Having done that, now we'd go ahead to determine our off shoulder or our over bust point line. So for your over bust point or your off shoulder point, you could either come down at that point by 5 inches, 6 inches, 7 inches. It entirely depends on your client's preference. So the more you go in with the value, the more revealing your client's cleavage would be. Or you could equally use the distance between your client's bust to under bust circumference point on this point. So whatever you have imputed as the distance between your bust to your under bust points, go ahead to use that value, placing it from your bust point all the way up. So I'm going to be using that value for mine. So I'm going to be taking this all the way down here. So reintroducing my straight ruler, I'll connect that point into each other to form my straight line. So go ahead to label your pattern. This is my over bust, or you could call it my off shoulder point. Now we're going to be imputing our darts for our over bust point. So to do that, we're going to be measuring out what we have as our under bust point dart. So the total is 2.5 inches. We're not going to be distributing this evenly on both sides because the bust is fuller on the side. So we're going to be going in with a smaller figure or value on the center front point and the bigger value at the side front. So for this point, we're going to be chalking down 0.75 at this point. And now for this other point, we're going to be coming in by 1.75, which will give us a total of 2.5 inches. So now reintroducing my curve ruler, I'll go ahead to connect from my center front over bust dart all the way down to my bust point. So please pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed at this point. Do go ahead to replicate same for yours. So that is it for our center front. Now for our side front, we'll go ahead to connect from our over bust point dart all the way into our bust point. So having done that, now we'd go ahead to determine our cup depth. So placing your tape from your bust point, you could either come up at that point by 1 inch, 2 inches, 1.5 inches, 2.5 inches, and even 2.75. This is entirely dependent on your client's preference or the corset that you're trying to, replicate or make. So at that point, we're going to be coming in further by 0.5 inch, and now we'll be connecting that point into each other to form our straight line. Now we'll go ahead to draw out our center front cup curve. So to do that, we're going to be connecting from our under bust point dart all the way up to the 0.5 inch that we came in with on that point. I do hope you understand. So please pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. So with this being done, we've successfully imputed our center front cup curve. So now for our side front cup curve, remember on our bust point, we divided our client's nipple to nipple by 2, which is our bust span. And that gave us a total, for mine, it gave me a total of 4.5 inches. Now on my side front, still on my bust point, I'm going to be adding 1 extra inch to that measurement. And that would give me 5.5 inches. And I've gone ahead to chalk it down on my bust point. Now placing your tape from your chest point, you're going to be coming down at that point by 0.5 inch. Now going with your straight ruler again, connect that point into each other to form a straight line. So with this being done, whatever value I have imputed on my chest point, which is my bust circumference divided by 4, I'll chalk it down on my new chest point line. So we have our new chest point line and our former chest point line. So the new chest point line is definitely what we're going to be working with. So placing my curve ruler again, I'm going to be extending from that 5.5 inches that I imputed on my bust point for my side dart cuff all the way up. Now, going in with our curve ruler again, I'm going to be blending from that point all the way down to my under bust point on my side front. I do hope you understand. Go ahead to blend that point into each other. So do ensure that that point is as smooth as possible. So now for my over bust point curve, now we're going to reintroduce our curve ruler all over again, connecting from my over bust point dart all the way into my 0.5 inch that I came in with on that point. So please watch the way my curve ruler is being placed and do go ahead to replicate same. So now for my side front, we're going to be drawing out our curve. So we're going to be reblending from that point, which is my side front over bust dart, all the way into my new chest point line. So please pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed. Now moving on, we're going to be further imputing 0.25 on both sides of our over bust point. So my center front 0.25 and lastly on my side front 0.25 as well. So now we'll reintroduce our curve ruler, connecting from that point all the way into my bust point. So this is it for our center front. And now we'll go ahead to replicate that same process on our side fronts. So please, like I said, do pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed at every given point and do go ahead to replicate same. Now I'll go ahead to make a stroke with my red marker to show you that this other curve or our former curve is no longer valid. So the new curve that we drew out on both sides, which was the 0.25 that we came in with on both our center front and our side front, is the point that is valid. So now to further ensure that both curves aligns perfectly and we do not have any shortage, we're going to be taking that curve all the way down to my bust point and we chalk it down. So now that's for my side front. Now for my center front point, I'll go ahead to measure out that same measurement. So if you have any shortage at that point, go ahead to impute that shortage. So I have a bit of shortage at this point. I'll go ahead to impute it on that point. Now, reintroducing my curve ruler, I'll go ahead to extend that point all the way up to that shortage. So having done that for that point, we're going to be reblending from that point all over again into the 0.5 inch that we came in with on our corset cup depth. I do hope you understand. So this is basically this for this point. So now you could see that the shortage has been replaced and of course we've gone ahead to draw out our curve. So with this being done, both our center front over bust curve would align perfectly on both the center front and the side front. So now moving on, we'd go ahead to impute our darts. So before we impute our darts for our yoke, we'd go ahead to reblend that point into each other. So just watch the way my curve ruler is being placed and do go ahead to connect from your center front over bust darts to your side front over bust darts this way. So now to impute your yoke darts, you're going to be taking in 1 inch on both sides. So 1 inch for your center front and 1 inch on your side front. So this is it for this part. We'll go ahead to reconnect. We'll go ahead to introduce our straight ruler rather. And we'll be connecting from that 1 inch on our center front all the way up to our shoulder point. So this is it for our center front, which is this. And now for our side front, we'll go ahead to connect from that 1 inch all the way up to our shoulder point this way. So with this being done, you've successfully imputed your yoke darts and your under bust darts and lastly your over bust darts. Now moving on, we'll go ahead to impute our circumference measurements. Go ahead to divide your bust circumference by 4. Chalk it down on your chest point, your new chest point, and of course your bust point. So we've done that for that part. And now we're going to be replacing the darts that we have on this point. So I've gone ahead to check out the dart in between that point, which is 1 inch. And I've gone ahead to replace it on my side. So we're going to be replacing it on our chest point, which is our former chest point, our new chest point, and lastly on our bust point. Moving on to our under bust point, we're going to be dividing our under bust circumference by 4 and we'll chalk it down. Now we're going to be replacing this dart that we have on this point on our side. So which is exactly what I did at that point. Now to my waist point, I would go ahead to divide my client's waist circumference by 4, which is this, and I'll chalk it down. For this dart, we'd go ahead to replace it as well, which is this on the side. And lastly, to our full corset blouse length, we'd go ahead to divide our hip circumference by 4 And of course, we'd go ahead to chalk it down. So go ahead to replace the dots that you have at that point on your sides as well. So with that being said, we'd go ahead to reconnect from our former chest point all the way into our new chest point. So this is basically this for this part, from your former chest point to your new chest point. And now we're going to be reblending from our chest point all the way down to our waist point, and lastly to our full corset blouse length point. So just go ahead to place your straight ruler and connect those points into each other to form your straight line. So now for our call for our full blouse length point, which we imputed our hip circumference by 4, would go ahead to reblend from that point all the way into our waist point. So go ahead to blend this point all the way in. So now to get a style line for this part, we're going to be coming up at that point by 1 inch. And now at that point again, we're going to further go out again by 1 inch. Having done that, reintroducing our slightly curved ruler, we're going to be reconnecting from our waist point all the way into the 1 inch extension we have imputed at that point. I do hope you understand, so just go ahead to replicate that same process for yours. Now go ahead to blend this point in this way. Reintroducing my slightly curved ruler, I would go ahead to connect from that extension all the way into my main bodies for my full corset blouse length. So just pay attention to what I'm doing at this point and do go ahead to replicate same. So with this being done, now we'll go ahead to impute our side darts. So my side dart is 2 inches. I'll go ahead to place my tape from my bust point and I'll chalk it down. So now I'm going to go in with my straight ruler, connecting from my side dart all the way into my bust point. So just pay attention to what I'm doing at this point and do go ahead to replicate same. Having done that, I'll go in with my red marker and I'll be making strokes at every given point that we're going to be eliminating. So for this under bust point, we'll go ahead to eliminate it. And now for our side dart, we'll go ahead to replicate the same process as well. So just go ahead to make your strokes on this part. So having done that, so now to eliminate our side dart, we'd have to cut through this point. So just pay attention to what I'm doing. Go ahead to cut through following the curves that you have at your full corset blouse length. So just go ahead to do this for this part, which is basically this. Now on your side dart, remember we came down at that point for mine by 2 inches, whatever you came down at that point, go ahead to slash through that point. Make it as close as possible to your bust point, but do not cut it off. Please ensure that you do not get to your bust point, but just make it as close as possible to your bust point. So with that being done for that part, now we're going to be slashing opening the midpoint of our dart, which is this. So just like you did with the side dart, please ensure that your cutting is as close as possible to your bust point and not exactly on your bust point. I do hope you understand what I'm trying to say at this point. With that being done, now you're going to be grabbing from the lower part and you overlap it on your bust point line. So this is exactly how you go about eliminating your side darts. So now you could either use your masking tape to hold this part down or you could use your water gum. So for mine, I have a water gum at the moment, so I'm going to be working with that. So I'm going to grab my water gum at this point. I'm going to be spreading it on the side dart, which is this part, all the way up here. Now, just like we did initially before, we're going to be taking from the lower point and we're going to be overlapping it on our bust point line. So please pay attention. Take from the lower point, overlap it on your bust point this way. So with this being done, you've successfully eliminated your side dart. You can see the shortage that we have at that point. We're going to be redrawing our side cup. So now to do that, we're going to be placing our curve ruler this way. And we're going to be taking from that point all the way down to our under bust point. So with this being done, you've successfully augmented for the shortage that you have at that point. So now for the side, we'd go ahead to replicate that same process, reintroducing our straight ruler. We'll be connecting from our chest point all the way down to our under bust point this way. So now for our side bodies, I'll go in with my scissors and I'll be cutting through following the side curves that we have imputed at that point. So we're going to be taking this point off, eliminating the excesses at that point. And now for our shoulder, we'll go ahead to eliminate the excess as well. Now on our neckline, we'll go ahead to eliminate the excess as well, which is this. And now for our shoulder slope, we're going to be taking from that point all the way down here this way. Now for our armhole curve, we're going to be taking through this point, eliminating the excess, following the armhole curve that we drew on that point. So just take it bit by bit all the way down. So we're going to be taking it from this point all the way into our new chest point line. So just follow through this process, you definitely get it right. So just go ahead to cut this other excesses all the way out. So with that being done, we'd go ahead to take out our cup curve, which is this, following the curve line that we drew on that point. So just go ahead to follow the curve line imputed on that point. Take it all the way into your armhole point this way. We would go ahead to separate our center front from our side front following the dart line. So just go ahead to detach this point from each other this way. Having done that, now we'll go ahead to eliminate our underbust dart following the curves that we have imputed on that point. So I'm going to be doing this for my underbust dart, and I would equally do same for my overbust dart as well. So this is it for our center front, our underbust dart. And now for our overbust dart, still on our center front, we'll go ahead to take it off. Now moving to the side front, we'd go ahead to replicate that same process. So if you have watched this video to this point, what are you waiting for? Kindly click on the subscription button, like and follow for more of this related content. So having eliminated our darts, now we'll go ahead to take out our cup curve. So following the curve that we have imputed on our center front, we'll go ahead to take out our center front cup curve, which is definitely this. Having done that for the center front, we'll go ahead to replicate that same process on our side front. So please ensure to follow out the reblended point that we, basically imputed at that point. Go ahead to cut it off. With that being done, now we'll move on to our yoke. So to eliminate your yoke darts, you're going to be taking from one part of the yoke, which is this, and you're going to be slashing through to your shoulder point. Now grab from this point, overlap it to eliminate the excess that you have at that point. So just overlap it on this point this way. So either go in with your masking tape or your water gum to hold it down this way. So I've gone in with my water gum. So just like I said initially, you're going to be overlapping it on the other side of your dart intake. So I hope you do understand. Just basically watch what I'm doing at this point and do go ahead to replicate same. So you could see the excess that a bit of excess that we have at that point. I'm going to go ahead to connect my straight ruler to ensure that that point is, aligning perfectly on both sides. So this is it. I would go ahead to cut it off this way. So with this being done, we'll go ahead to label our pattern, my center front, which is 1, my side front, which is 2, and the lower parts as my center front and this point, my side front. Now, having done this, your front pattern is ready. So for those that would want to make this into a 3-piece cup, now I'm going to be showing you how to go about this. So keeping the sides aside, now we'll go ahead to work on our cup to get our 3-piece cup. So with that being said, on that point, we'll go ahead to place our tape, and we're going to be chalking down 2.5 inches, which is this. So that is that for our center front. And now for our side front, we'll go ahead to replicate that same process. Chalk down 2.5 inches on your center front as well. So now you're going to be using the value of your bust point as your depth or your deepening for your your 3-piece cup rather. So now on the side front, you're going to be placing your tape on your bust point, and you're going to be coming down at that point by 0.5 inch. So like I said, for my center front, my bust point is going to be the part my curve is definitely going to stop at. So now I'll go in with my curve ruler, and I'll be connecting from my bust point on my center front line all the way into the 2.5 inches that we imputed on our dart line on our overbust. I do hope you understand what I'm trying to say at this point. So basically watch the way my curve ruler is being placed, and do go ahead to replicate same. So this is it for our center front. Now we'll go ahead to replicate that same process on our side front. So remember, on our side front, we came down at that point by 2.5 inches, and on our bust point, we further came down by 0.5 inch. So we're going to be connecting from the 2.5 inches down to the 0.5 inch that we came down with on our bust point. I do hope you understand. So now go ahead to place your curve ruler and connect it all the way into that point. So with this being done, you've perfectly drafted for yourself your 3-piece cup. So you can see how that point aligned perfectly on the center front and the side front. So now you're going to be taking the measurement at this point. So you could see we have 2 inches on the center front side and now 2 inches on the side front side. So this is definitely what you'd want to achieve if you follow through the process. And of course, you've gotten it right. So if you need a detailed tutorial on how to go about the cutting process and the joining process of your 3-piece cup, I do have a detailed tutorial on my channel. So do ensure to check it out. And voila, your perfectly drafted plus size corset is ready. So this is a 3-part corset. So you could see how beautiful this point sits. You could see how the curve aligns perfectly on the center front and of course the side front. So you can see how beautiful this stand out. And of course our yoke, our well eliminated yoke darts. You could see how perfect this curve synchronizes on both our center front and our side front for our 3-part cup. So with this pattern, you could either incorporate this into a 2-piece or your 3-piece cup. The choice is totally yours. And you could see how our chest point blends evenly all the way down to our full blouse length. So with that being said, we'd move right into drafting our back pattern. So I've gone ahead to lay down my pattern paper for my back bodies, and I'll go ahead to roll out a straight line on this point, which is this. So this point automatically becomes our shoulder point. So now please pay attention to this part. Here are the required measurements we're going to be needing. So remember vividly our client shoulder to full blouse length point for our front pattern was 24 inches. And now our side dart was 2 inches. So whatever your side dart is, please go ahead to impute that value at this point. So now to get our client shoulder to back blouse length, we're going to be subtracting 2 inches from the 24 inches. So you're going to be subtracting your client shoulder to full blouse length minus your side dart. So that would automatically give you your client shoulder to back blouse length. So which mine is 22 inches. I do hope you understand. Now moving on, you're going to be needing all these required measurements. You basically have to take this measurement. This is definitely the only way you can, get through this mathematical formula to arrive at your accurate value. So now for my client shoulder to front waist point, emphasis on front waist point, it was 18 inches. Now you'd go ahead to subtract that same 2 inches, which is our side dart, from that value. And that would automatically leave me with 16 inches. So it means my client shoulder to back waist point is 16 inches and my client shoulder to back blouse length is 22 inches. I do hope you understand. Now I'll go ahead to place my tape from my shoulder point line and I'll mark my client shoulder to bust point, which is this. And now my client shoulder to waist point, which is this. And lastly, my client shoulder to full blouse length point, which is this. So for my back point, I did imputed 16 inches. And lastly, for my full blouse length, I did imputed 22 inches, which was the value that we got having done our calculation. So I've gone ahead to label my pattern, my shoulder, my bust point, my back waist point, and my back blouse length point. Now, placing my tape from my shoulder point, I'll go ahead to chalk down my client shoulder to chest point, which was exactly what we did imputed on our front pattern. So now to our circumference measurement, divide your shoulder circumference by 2, chalk it down on your shoulder point, which is this. And now take that same measurement all the way down to your chest point. But before we do that, let's go ahead to label our pattern. So this is my chest point line. Now, like I said initially, take whatever value you have imputed on your shoulder point, bring it down to your chest point this way. Now, going with your straight ruler, connecting those points into each other to form a straight line this way. Now, the next thing we'd go ahead to impute is our neckline. So you're going to be maintaining the value of 3 inches as your width. And now for your back neckline depth, you're going to be imputing in between the value of 1 inch or 1.5 inches. So I did imputed 1 inch for mine. And now on my chest point line, I'll be coming down at that point by 1 inch to form my shoulder loop. Now, reintroducing my curve ruler, I'll go ahead to connect that point into each other to form my neckline. Now, with the aid of my straight ruler, I'm going to be connecting from that point all the way down to form my shoulder loop. Just like we did initially, place your tape from your shoulder slope down to your chest point. Go ahead to fold your tape into 2, find the midpoint of that line, and still on the midpoint line, come in at that point by 0.5 inch. Lastly, on your chest point line, divide your client bust circumference by 4 and chalk it down. Now, with the introduction of my armhole curve, I'll go ahead to connect those points into each other to form my armhole curve. Now, having done that, on my waist point, my back waist point to be precise, you're going to be dividing your client bust span by 2. So mine was 9 inches divided by 2. I chalked down 4.5 inches on my back waist point. So I'm going to be taking that measurement all the way down to my corset blouse length, and lastly, my bust point line. Go in with your straight ruler and connect those points into each other to form a straight line. So now the next thing we're going to be imputing is our off shoulder point for our back bodies. So now to get the off shoulder point for your back bodies, usually it is always bigger on the back as compared to the front. So for mine, I'm going to be using my chest point as my off shoulder point for my back bodies. Having done that, roll that point into a straight line, and now we'd go ahead to extend this line all the way up to our chest point line. So now go ahead to label your pattern, your center front, and your side front. Having done that, now we're going to be imputing our basic dart, and your basic dart is a total of 1 inch. So we're going to be distributing 0.5 inch evenly on both sides of our back waist point. I do hope you understand. So on your center front, on your back waist point, come in by 0.5 inch on both sides. Now placing your tape from your shoulder point, your back waist point rather point again. Now you're going to be coming down at that point by 5.5 inches, which will serve as your dart length. Now reconnect from 0.5 inch on the center front all the way up to your bust point on both sides. So this is this for our center front, and now for our side front, we'll go ahead to replicate same. Now we're going to be extending from that 0.5 inch all the way down to the 5.5 inches that we came down with, which is our dart length. I do need your attention at this part. So now remember, on our front waist point, on our front chest point rather, we came down at that point by 0.5 inch, and I told you specifically that this is influenced by the fact that I'm going to be draping my yoke. So if you're not draping your yoke, please do not come down at that point by 0.5 inch. Rather, go ahead to maintain the value of your chest point. So now on my new chest point, I'm going to be marking my bust circumference divided by 4, and I'm going to be bringing it down to my bust point as well. So now to my back waist point, I'll go ahead to divide my back waist circumference rather by 4, and I'll chalk it down. Now go ahead to replace the dart that you have imputed on that part, which is 1 inch. And lastly, for your full blouse length for your back pattern, you're going to be dividing your hip circumference by 4. Now I'll go ahead to connect from that point all the way down to my back waist point, which is this. Now with the aid of my slightly curved ruler, I'll be reconnecting from my back waist point to my back blouse corset length point. Now we're going to be rolling that line, which is our new chest point line. We're going to be extending it all the way in. Having done that, we'll go ahead to label our pattern. So this is our new chest point line. So like I said, if you do not have any intention of draping your yoke, please do not come down by 0.5 inch. Rather, go ahead to maintain the value of your chest point. I do hope you understand. So for our corset back opening, I'm going to be coming in on that point, on my chest point to be precise, by either 1 inch, 1.5 or 2 inches. So for mine, I came in at that point by 1.5 inches. I took it all the way down to my corset blouse length, and now with the aid of my straight ruler, I'll go ahead to connect it into each other to form my straight line. Now we'll go ahead to mark out our keyhole neckline for our yoke, our back yoke to be precise. Come down on that point by 0.5 inch, and now reconnect from that point into your dart line point. Or now, if you do not want it very open, you could come in at that point by 2 inches, 1 inch or 1.5 inches. So I'm going to be using the value of my dart length as my keyhole neck depth. So I do hope you understand what I'm trying to say at this point. So I've gone ahead to use my curve ruler and I've connected it all the way down. So remember, at that point, you're going to be coming up at that point by 1 inch, and you're going to be going out again by 1 inch. Now reintroduce your slightly curved ruler, connect from that point all the way into your waist point, and go ahead to blend this point. Having done that, with the aid of our slightly curved ruler again, we're going to be blending from that point into our bodies. So please watch what I'm doing at this point and do go ahead to replicate same. Having done that, I'll go ahead to make some dots at this point to indicate or to show you that on this part, you're going to be attaching your eyelids. Now I'll go ahead to make strokes on this part. So every part that is shaded is the part that we're going to be taking off. Now, with that being done, I'll go in with my scissors and I'll go ahead to eliminate all the excesses that I have at every given point. So please just pay attention to what I'm doing at this point and do go ahead to replicate same. So having eliminated all the excesses on the side, now we'll go ahead to relabel my pattern. So this is my former chest point and now my new chest point line. So now the next thing I would go ahead to do is to slash open or to detach the lower side from the upper side or the yoke, starting from the new chest point. So please, like I said, if you have no intention rather of draping your yoke, please ensure to omit this part. Rather, you're going to be slashing through your old chest point and not your new chest point. So there's no need for you coming down at that point by 0.5 inch at all. So with that being said, I would go ahead to take out the excesses on my keyhole neckline for my back pattern. So this is it for this point. So now moving on, we'll go ahead to eliminate our corset back opening. So we're going to be taking through this point, eliminating the shaded part of our corset back opening, which is this point. Now, having done that, now we're going to be slashing through our dart line to, take out our center front and our side front. So this is basically to detach it from each other first, which is basically what I'm doing. Having done that, we'll go ahead to take out our back waist imputed dart, which is basically this. Just go ahead to take out the dart you imputed on your back waist point. Now that is it for our center front. So for my side front, I'll go ahead to replicate that same process. And voila, your perfectly drafted back pattern is ready. So this is very beautiful. Look how beautiful and perfect this came out. You could see the alignment on all the sides, your keyhole neck point, your neckline, your shoulder point, your chest point. You could see how it evenly flows from the chest point down to our corset back blouse length point. You could see our well eliminated back darts that we have on that point. So we're going to be joining that point back together once we transfer this to our fashion fabric. So with this being said, I would go ahead to bring back all our pattern. So now I'll go ahead to label this point to be my front yoke, which is this, and this to be my back yoke, which is this. So with this pattern right here, you have just drafted for yourself a perfect plus size corset. So you could see how the point aligns perfectly, our bust cup, and you could see our well eliminated front dart yoke. You could see how the side flows evenly from the chest point to the full blouse length of your front pattern. And now you could see the folded part, which I told you that point is definitely going to be on fold. Now you could see our back pattern, our keyhole neckline, our chest point, our basically the neckline. You could see the shoulder points, you could see the well eliminated that we have imputed on our back bodies. So with this being said, you're going to be adding all your necessary allowances. So 0.5 inch at that point, on this point 0.5 inch, on this point 0.5 inch, all the way around here. And now on the side, you're going to be adding either 1 inch or 2 inches. On this point, 0.5 inch, here 0.5 inch, 0.5 inch, all the way round. And lastly, on this part, whatever you have imputed on your back pattern, go ahead to use that side allowance for your front pattern. So with that being said, we've come to the end of our tutorial. If you're going to be trying out this drafting technique for your plus size corsets, let me know on the comment section. So with this being said, we've come to the end of our drafting tutorial. Thank you and see you on my next video. Bye.